Okay, welcome back everyone to Roll Mangging for our Shadowrun campaign on Roll 20. This one was quite a doozy, I'll tell you that right off the bat. Unexpected stuff happened, it was insane, and we're going to get into all of it, so get ready. Okay, so we left off... Okay. Yes, alright, so we left off, I was driving around that neighborhood, right, trying to find where Jack lived, Edward's character. Because I wanted him dead, because he was with the military apparently, we were being followed, a lot of bad shit was happening, I blamed it all on him, so I wanted him dead. I could not find his place, because he had taken the thing for his lifestyle, where his place was hard to find, and so it did its duty, I guess. So I went back home, and we just slept, alright? And so, I think it was Friday morning, okay? And Stuart Lyons was up, he was doing his jog, he was getting his breakfast, all that. I was just like, I went to bed at like 3:30 in the morning or something, I was done. So we get a knock on our door at like 8 a.m. or something, and I'm just like, no, no. And Golk doesn't get up if I don't get up, so... we just left it until like noon when we finally got up. And so Golk headed over there to the door and he found a little note and a package. And so he checked the note. It was apparently from Layla. I'm not sure what it said. And in the package was a small box. A cube. It was a small cube with about 6 inches to a side. And so he was like, ooh, very interesting. And so... there wasn't really much going on for the day, because the big golf game was tomorrow, so this was kind of just a whatever day. I was just sitting around watching movies all day. Jack called asking, he called Stuart asking if, he wanted the taxi done, and I was just like, no, just wait till this golf thing is over, and then we'll handle that. And so, he didn't do much, I didn't do much. Stuart had his date that he had planned with the cop woman, and so he went to that. Nothing really eventful. She mentioned that there was like, really hectic week at work because there was this explosion and a robbery, all this stuff happening, and so he was just like, oh, okay. And not much happened there. And Golk spent the whole day with his little cube, because apparently it was like a puzzle box, and so he wanted to solve it. And so it took him 14 hours total, but he only worked on it 12 hours on Friday. So Saturday comes around, and we're all meeting at Nacho Mama's at 10, except for Jack, who we told him to meet us there at 10:30. And so we all get up, we get ready, we go there, and right when we get there, Golk solves the puzzle box. And so if you haven't guessed already, this is Ren's Shadowrun version of the bag. Which, if you're not caught up on the whole mythos, Golk, this is the same Golk since he exists. He's always been the same Golk. He's gone through all these crazy adventures. He doesn't really age. He's just Golk. And in every single universe and plane of existence, there is a version of the bag. And so we've had the bag, we've had the book, and we've had now the box. And so this one's a little bit different. Instead of just touching it, you actually have to solve it. And so he finally solved it. It took him 14 hours total. And so we rolled for that. And he got one that was like, reader gains +2 levels and a magic item of his choice or something like that. And so Ren... had to convert this over to Shadowrun rules because there's no levels in Shadowrun. So he got 2 skills of his choice. He learned 2 skills of his choice, and he got a gun of his choice. And so he took skill in long arms and fast food service, and he took the burst fire shotgun, fully loaded. And so he suddenly gained the knowledge, and it suddenly appeared in his hands, and we're just like, what? Like, where did that come from? It's like, the box. And so we're like, what okay. And so the box, folded back up. The image that Ren linked to show us what it was like it's literally like the puzzle box from Hellraiser. That's what I thought when he first said, oh, it's like a cube, it's a little cube, 6 inches to a side. I'm like, oh, it's the freaking Hellraiser box. And I don't know if he took that as the cue, but yeah, it's the Hellraiser box. And so it, folded back in, and it's like, oh, okay, great. And so, yeah, he's got an auto shotty now, or burst fire shotty. So we put that in, like, the trunk of the car. And we went inside, we ordered, and Lynx is like, so we're going to go ahead with plan A. And I'm like, yep, going to go ahead with plan A. And so Mert did not make it for today's session. He had homework because he's in high school. And so, yeah, he couldn't show up for the session. So we had to do it without him. Really, he didn't have a huge part in the plan. He was pretty much like the oh shit guy, like if things go really badly, he comes rushing in and just, shoots everybody. So we had to kind of leave him out. And so we brought in Golk instead. So Golk is going to be our chauffeur, and if we, call him and say, get in here, he's going to get in there now with his burst fire shotty and shoot everybody. But that won't happen. Alright, so we're like, okay, we're doing this. And finally, Jack arrives. And so... Okay. Yes, my plan was to, have him work on the taxi, and I just blow up the explosives in the trunk, and he's dead, and most of the evidence is gone, whatever. And obviously, as you can tell by now, that's not what really happened yet. And so I'm having lunch with the guy. But Ziggy and I have something planned, so you'll understand soon. And so Ziggy and I are sitting there, we're waiting for Jack to come in, and we're like, okay, we go into our comlinks, and we delete all messages and all calls and the contact for Jack Williams from our comlinks. Just erase it. No trace. And he's like, okay, yeah, okay. we're ghosting him. Okay, so that's all gone. And then he arrives, he goes to get his food, and I try and hack into his comlink. And I try and hack, and I roll like 18 dice or something when I'm using hack on the fly. Because I put everything into it for hacking devices, everything. And I failed. I got like 2 success. It was pathetic. And so he gets like a loud, big pop-up noise on his comlink that's like, you're being hacked. It doesn't tell him who's hacking him. It doesn't say, oh, he's right over there or anything like that. It just says, security breach. And so I like jack out real quickly. It's not, I can do it subtly. It's not like, oh, okay, you see I'm hacking things? No, it's basically I'm like on a little tablet down here, And so I just like jack out and reboot. So there's no trace of me hacking it. But he knows something's up now. Not from us, necessarily. And so he gets his food, and he comes back to the table. He's like, somebody just tried to hack my comlink. And so Lynx put on his best acting face, and he's like, what? You've got to be careful, man. Like, check your bank account. And so, Jack believed his acting and everything. And so then I chime in. I got a burst of inspiration right here, and I'm like, oh, if you slave your comlink to my cyber deck, like, any hackers have to go through my cyber deck, to try and hack it. And this is a real thing, and this is what Shadowrunners will do, is they'll have their decker. Okay, and when other people are trying to hack their shit, whether it be their gun or their cyberware, or their eyes, whatever, their cybered up eyes, or, their comlink, they just go through that device's protection rating, the firewall rating, which is usually generally low. For just, especially for something like a gun, it's not very high. It's going to be something like a 2, plus their intuition, I think. So usually not much, because their intuition's usually not going to be very high. You have the just big troll with a big gun, his intuition's going to be low, his gun's firewall is going to be low. Okay, and so an enemy hacker can easily brick his gun from afar. Whereas you can slave any device to a different device. And so one device acts as the master and one is the slave. And so this grants pretty much complete control to the person that has the master device, usually the hacker, the decker. But any enemy hackers cannot directly hack the device. They have to go through the Decker's device, usually his cyberdeck, because that's usually his most pimped out thing. And so my cyberdeck and my intuition are much higher than, say, the big brute's intuition and his gun. So it's a pretty common tactic as far as I understand. And so we never really mentioned it because we haven't met any enemy hackers or anything like that. And really the enemy hacker here is me. So this is kind of social hacking. And so I'm like, you should slave your thing to my cyberdeck. It'll be much more secure. And I'm like, Lynx, you should do that too. And Lynx knows I'm not going to screw him over. But hopefully, he can understand what I'm trying to do here. And so he's like, yeah, all right. You don't actually have to give me your I don't hold on to your comlink. It's just wirelessly slaved. And so he's like, Jack's like, well, all right, I'll do it if Lynx does it. And so they both hand it over. I slave it real quick, and then, okay. I don't even know if you have to physically do it, or I could probably do it remotely. I don't know how that works, actually. Yeah, I don't know how it all works. But whatever. And so now his comlink is slaved to my cyberdeck, which means I have pretty much complete control over it. If I wanted to format it, I literally could just go done. That's it. I own his comlink. In a Matrix sense. And so I'm like, all right, cool. And so we finish our lunch, and we're like, all right, we're going to do this. And Golk had to go back to Mert's place to get the chauffeur's outfit. And so he comes back, and we're like, all right, let's go. And so as we're driving over to the country club, I tap into Jack's comlink, which is, I can just bring it right up on my little cyber deck. And I can look at all his messages, and if this had been going for a while and we had all sorts of secret dealings going on, I could see, okay, he's been contacting Joey the Rat or, whatever. But no, I just wanted to delete shit. And so I deleted, obviously, Lynx and myself as contacts. I deleted all our messages, any calls, and all trace that the three of us have ever really contacted. Okay. And without him really knowing, unless he went into his messages, or tried to call us and noticed that the contact was no longer there. And luckily, he did not try. He might have noticed something was up. All right, so we arrive at the country club, and we drop off Jack a little ways away where he can enter into the actual course, through up the creek or whatever. And so then we go up to the door. And okay, so I'm trying to think now. He futzes with his puzzle box, which is no longer like a 14-hour roll. It's just a logic plus intuition roll. And as long as he gets a few successes, he activates it. He figures it out. And so he futzes with it while we're waiting there, and he activates it again. And it's like a random creature within 60 yards gets teleported to the abyss. And so how Ziggy would have handled this if he was DMing would be he would assign each of us a number, and then he'd say, okay, if, he's going to roll a d20. If one of us is picked, then it's one of us. Otherwise, it's just some random person. Or, he would have assigned, like, Livingston Dell or something as a 20, He would have done stuff like that. Ren just had Golk roll a fate dice. And as long as it wasn't a 1, it wasn't one of us, I guess. Which is fine. And so it was just some random cat that was near our vehicle. Just disappeared. And so Golk's like, hey, I made that cat disappear. And I'm like, what cat? What are you talking about? He's like, that cat. I made it, it's gone. And I'm like, he's like, we could take this magic, we could take this magic act on the road. We could make tons of money. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, bring the cat back. And he's like, okay. And so he futzes with it some more and he activates it again. And so now I'm trying to remember what the second effect was. Okay, yes, I remember. The effect that he got the second time was Reader's skin is impervious to all normal weapons, which in D&D is okay, it's kind of useful, but there's a lot of magic shit out there. In Shadowrun, that means you're literally just impervious to all firearms. Which is, and katanas and clubs and axes and all that stuff. You know, it's much more useful, I think, in Shadowrun. There's magic, of course, and there's explosions and things like that, but much more useful. And so he's suddenly just like, "Wow, Lynx, shoot me in the head." And I'm like, why would we do that? Like, that's terrible. Like, normal, we wouldn't just be like, "Okay, Gulk." Like, no. We'll think like there's something mentally wrong with you. We wouldn't suddenly think, "Oh, he's impervious." Okay, like maybe Artemis or something. When we were really involved in the bag and I had kind of control over and stuff like that, and he's like, "Oh, you know, stab me or something," I'd be like, "All right," you know, like, it's the bag, but we just found this thing. So obviously we did not shoot him in the head, and he's like, "Okay, Gug, stab me as hard as you can." And I'm like, "No, Gulk, what is wrong with you? Give me that box. You didn't even bring the cat back." He's like, "Oh, yeah." And so I'm holding on to this for now. And so we eventually are like, okay, well, the game wasn't for a while. It wasn't for like an hour and a half, but we're not just going to sit in the car. Gulk's being weird, so we're just going to go in and mingle for a while. And so I'm like, "All right, Gulk, I'm going to leave this box with you, but only because it's technically yours. Just, you know, I don't know what's going on with you, man, but be careful." Because all we've seen is him think he made a cat disappear and suddenly asked us to shoot and stab him. So, yeah, the gun thing appeared, but I didn't know what to make of that. So, something might be up, but it's weird. Because I don't really know where he got it. I think he said Layla gave it to him, and I don't really like that chick anyways. So, alright, so we head in, Gulk just parks the car and sits and waits. Okay, so we go in. We go into like the bar area and we're mingling with the people that we're gonna be playing with today. And I'm the caddy, I'm an uncouth caddy. So I just keep my mouth shut because I know if I open it, I'm just gonna screw up everything. So I just let Lynx do all the talking, and he's, you know, schmoozing and boozing and all that kind of stuff. Not really boozing. And so he's talking to everybody, and we find out that one guy, Edgar. One of the guys we'll be playing with, Edgar, hates dwarves. And, you know, of course, I'm a dwarf. And so I'm like, okay, well, you know, if we find out his license plate, maybe I'll leave a present under his car or something. Yeah, so I don't care much for that. And eventually, Livingston arrives, and he greets everybody. He's like, "All right, well, let's get this show on the road and all that." And so we get out on the course. And Stuart spent some karma. I don't know. I think I mentioned this. He spent some karma to up his golf game, which didn't. I don't think it really made a difference in the long run, but it didn't hurt. He handled his golfing pretty well. He was right behind Livingston, which is kind of funny now that I think about it. As you'll find out later. It's just funny to think of Livingston. He was the best golfer there. Okay. And so we're golfing, and so my job on this excursion is to do the hacking. I have to hack into their bank accounts through their comlinks and transfer their money to my cred stick. I bought a platinum cred stick and hold like $500,000. And I was actually kind of worried, like, I hope 500,000, like, I hope that's enough, you know. Like, they might have more. But how wrong I was. And so I had to roll like a reaction plus intuition to find the perfect moments where I could really do this safely. Because, you know, it's a long game. It takes, you know, a few hours or something to go through a golf game, 18 holes. And so I'm not really trained at all sneaky, stealthy, being hidden, anything like that. So I just wanted to wait for the perfect moments. And so I got a few. And so, okay, like the whole hacking bank accounts thing. This is not in the rules, all right? You're not going to find rules for this, and I searched extensively online for anybody that has tried this before. Not really. I guess people don't do this in Shadowrun. I don't know why. They'll do, like, they just get hired by people, and they steal prototypes, and they sell information, and Nobody does petty shit like this, I guess. And so, so this is kind of just us making up things as we go. And so Ren, I guess, decided that I could do this remotely. And I guess he's not wrong. And he simplified it drastically. I'm not complaining at all. I like it. But he made it just pretty much one roll. I could do it remotely and just put it on my cred stick and boom, we have money. Which is kind of, I guess, fair considering the amount of money we got out of it. So literally I just hacked into their comm links remotely, just with one roll, hacking plus logic. And if I beat out their defenses, their firewall plus intuition, whatever, if I got more net hits, I hack into their bank account and I get all their money. So I hack into the first person's, I get 10 grand. And I was thinking, like, 10 grand, wow. Like, this is their bank, this is everything, apparently. And this is an exclusive club, Leonard McDowell, who's, Ziggy is masquerading as, claimed that he earned $1 million as his salary, $1.2 million. And so that's kind of a payday that I expected. Like, these people to have, like, a couple $100 grand in their accounts. But, okay, 10 grand. I mean, it was one roll. It was real easy, and it's, boom, 10 grand. There it is. But we are taking a kind of significant risk here, We're out in the field. And so, okay, 10 grand, boom. And so I go to the next person. I go to Edgar, and I fail. And so he immediately gets, like, the notification. I jack out. I reboot. I try, I'm done. And he apparently doesn't do anything about it. I think he makes a call or something like that. But he doesn't do anything about it. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I'm not going to hack him again. I think Ziggy wanted me to, but as my character, I would not do that. Not when there's other targets. So I go to the third guy, hack his account, no problem, get another 10 grand. So we're sitting on 20 grand payoff right there. Okay. And so we get up to like the ninth hole. And I send a message to Stuart, text message. And I just say, trigger plan A. And he's like, oh, okay. All right. And so here's the grand plan. This is what we had decided. Okay, so after the last session, Ziggy and I had talked. And obviously I was intent on killing Jack. I think I made that pretty clear. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna send that car bomb. He's gonna work on it. He's gonna be under the car fixing something. I'm just gonna, simple, done, dead, move on. Ziggy saw something further than that, and I agreed with him in the end. So I gotta hand it to him. He outplanned me, I guess. I was just content with killing him, I guess. And so he was like, well, you could just kill him, but what if we, use him? What if we, like, frame him for this job? And so Ziggy likes the idea of framing people, if you haven't noticed. We wanted to frame Bob, and we ended up just blowing him up. Well, I did. And so now he really wants to frame him. So he's like, what if we frame him for this golf course thing? He's like, what if, like, he's going to be out on the course, in the middle of it. And what if, like, I just, like, go over to Livingston while we're playing. I'm like, do you see that guy? There's a guy over in your bushes. And I'm just like, holy shit. That's brilliant. Because his security, like, they'll just jump him. And, we'll be good. And so there are flaws in this plan. There are problems, potentially. Mainly the fact that they don't just kill the guy. Which, to be frank, they're not likely to really do. At least that's what I thought in the planning phase. Was they'll just, like, knock him out and they'll interrogate him. And obviously, Edward is going to sing like a bird. He's like, oh, hey, I know that guy, I work for the corporation, which he doesn't. He's just corporate born. He doesn't work for them anymore. At least that's how I understand it. And so, he's just gonna say everything. And so, but it's a risk. But if we can frame him for the job successfully, we're in the clear, our cover is intact, everything is good. And so I guess we decided it was worth the risk, and it sounded cooler than just blowing him up. So we're like, all right, we'll go ahead with it. So, we'll delete all our links to him, our contacts, messages, everything. So we never knew this guy. We sent him out there, none the wiser, and then while we're on there, we say to the guy, there's a guy out there. His security jumps him, and they blame their empty bank accounts on this guy. Okay? And, then the guy, Edward or Edgar, whose thing got hacked and he got the notification, they can blame it on him. And previously, when we first went to the club and I failed to hack Livingston's comlink, he could blame it on him. So it's all this guy. Okay, so that was plan A. Plan B was, I think, just shooting our way out. I think that was plan B. And so, okay, so he goes over to Livingston, and he's like, I noticed there's a guy over in the bushes. Is that part of your protocol? Like, it makes me feel kind of uneasy, And he's like, no, that should not be. And he says something to his security guard, which is a big burly orc. He's like, he whispers to him. And so the orc just starts running straight towards, Jack. And I'm thinking, well, damn, that's not very subtle. Like, in our initial planning, we were like, well, maybe he'll have, like, a sniper or something. I'll just pick him off. No, he has his orc bodyguard just run across the course towards him. Like, oh, okay, great. Way to have the element of surprise. And so, I messaged Ziggy. After I had said trigger plan A, I messaged Ziggy on Facebook in real life. And I was like, well, you should have that little conversation with Livingston in secret. So that Edward, the player, cannot hear it. So his player doesn't know what's up to eliminate metagaming, He did not do that. Apparently he did not see the message on Facebook in time. And so he said it out loud, and he's just like, oh, blah, 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 this guy over in the bushes. And so, not accusing Edward of metagaming, but I'm not saying he didn't metagame. Whatever. It plays out. Okay, so we're pretty much just frozen over there while all this is going on. So the orc is rushing over to him. Edward obviously knows something is up. And so he dives into the stream. That's how he got in, that's how he was going to get out. So he dives into the stream, and the orc is shouting to somebody, not Jack. And so orc's coming at him, and Jack is swimming through the stream, and near where it dumps out of the course, where it leaves the course, there are two guys standing there, like armed guards. And so Edward just immediately he destroys his comlink. And so I can't blame this entirely on Ziggy. We probably should have done the entire thing where we deleted our messages to him, and we hacked into his thing and deleted all his shit and all that. Because also, right before he deleted his comlink, I was like, okay, Ren, since I'm still the master to his comlink, I want to make a fake text conversation in his comlink between him and Joey the Rat, because I still had his number. And the last message is from Jack saying, okay, I'm going to be at the country club tomorrow doing the job. Really just incriminating evidence. And so right after I said that, Edward was like, okay, I destroyed my comlink. And I'm just like... And he's trying to explain, he's like, clearly I was set up, and so I'm still slave to his cyber deck, so he has total control over my comlink, and so I destroy it. And I'm like, okay. That's really suspicious, by the way. That's incriminating in itself, where, you're on the course, people are, security suddenly running at you, and you just, smash your comlink. Like, okay, that's not suspicious. So he's already up shit creek. So the guards are telling him to just stop and blah, blah. They're yelling. He ignores it. He's trying to swim out. But he's not like an Olympic swimmer or anything like that. And they're just following him really on the banks. And so one guy gets in the stream with him. The other guy shoots him. like just shoots through the shallow water and goes through it. It hits him because he can't really dodge much in the water, and it does just a shit ton of damage, and so it pretty much just knocks him unconscious. He's close to death. If he doesn't get medical treatment, he'll die. And so they drag his body out, and so that's when we cut back to us. And so Livingston is like, well, I'm afraid we're going to have to cut the game short. Which is fine. I wasn't going to do any more hacking. I wasn't, because then that would incriminate me. You know, if they catch this guy who they think to be the hacker, and afterwards they get suddenly a notification that they're being hacked, they're going to know something's up. So I was done with hacking, so I was fine. Let's just get out of here. So the game is cut short. We're all brought back into the country club. And into, like, the restaurant, and there's, the doors are closed, and there's some guards there. And I think one of the other guys, Edgar or whatever, is like, are we being arrested? What is going on here? He's like, it's for your own safety. We're not sure what's going on. I'm like, okay. And so, after a little while, Livingston comes in, and he's like, well, you're all... We've cleared that the man was acting alone, so you're all free to go. I'm sorry for the inconvenience and blah, blah, blah. And so everybody starts to leave, and he's like, oh, except for Mr. Leonard McDowell. And so, you know, Ziggy's like, Leonard's like, Stuart, whatever. He's like, oh, very well. Well, I'll just be a moment, Francois, which is my cover name. Freaking Francois. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll just wait outside then, sir. And so I go for the door, and the guard's just... And he doesn't let me leave. And I'm like... And so, you know, Stuart's like, oh, is this a conversation that, you know, he really needs to be privy to? And he's like, oh, yes, please sit. And, of course, we know something's up. We know something's up. Because we're obviously guilty, of course. And so we're being paranoid. And we're the only ones that are kept behind. And he doesn't want me to go. Because if he did, that'd be great. I could just drive the car into the building. You know, I could do a lot more from outside than inside. I'm vulnerable on the inside. We're not combat guys. And so, I don't sit down. I just lean up against a wall or whatever. And so, he starts talking. And he brings in Jack, who's still unconscious, and he like waves something in front of his face, and he comes back to consciousness. And so, this is a guy who's pretty much shot in the chest. He's shot in a very vital spot. It was one bullet, and he just immediately went into unconsciousness. Very close to death. And so, he just like waved something and stabilized him. So he's still like an inch away from, you know, back to unconsciousness. And as soon as he just wakes up, he's like, oh, hey, Stuart. Hey, Mang. And we're just like, well, first of all, we've never mentioned the name Mang to you. Guarantee that. And unfortunately, we only mentioned Stuart once. So he did know the name Stuart, which was dumb. I think I was the one that let that slip. Apparently, at Nacho Mama's, I let the name Stuart slip. Which is shit, because I usually call him Lynx. My bad, I guess. Edward latches onto these things. And so he's like, oh, hey, Stuart. Hey, Gug. How's it going? And I'm just like, he starts like talking. He's like, oh, you can check my sin. I'm corporate born. And I know these guys. You can check their sins too. And I'm just like, you just got back from unconsciousness. How are you talking so eloquently? Like, that was completely out of character, I think. He should be like, oh. Like, he should be barely able to speak. But I'm just like, what? And we roll with it. We have this little confrontation where he's just like, oh, you know, I know these guys. I work with them. You can check all their IDs. And we took like a little break between him going unconscious and this. And so he was trying to plan all these things that he could incriminate with us. He's like, oh, you can go check the security tapes at Nacho Mama's because we were just there all together. So you can check that. And Stuart's just like I would eat at a Nacho Mama's. I had to laugh. And so he tried all this stuff, and, I didn't say anything. And Ziggy was just, he was just blowing it all off. And he was doing his rolls to Livingston to be like, I'm sure, you've... And he's like, I know this guy's address and all this stuff. And he's like, yes, you've clearly, shown that you've been tracking me for a while. And because Ziggy also did a roll before Jack came in. He's like, oh, son of a bitch, my comlink, my bank account's been hacked, 12,000's gone. And he did his roll, and he did pretty well. And so, it seemed all believable. And so Livingston is taking in all this information. He's just like, this is all very strange. My only question is, what is a Nacho Mama's? And so, while this was all going on, I think, like, as soon as Livingston was like, oh, all you can leave except for Leonard, and the caddy and whatever, I messaged Ziggy on Facebook, and I'm like, if anything goes wrong, if anything happens, Gulk needs to just drive the car into the country club. And so while we were just sitting there waiting for Jack to come in, Stuart messaged Gulk, text messaged him. He's like, if I call you on the comm link, you need to just storm the country club. Because, kind of metagaming, I guess, but, now Gulk is impervious to normal weapons, and he has this burst fire shotgun. So he's kind of a beast. And so I was kind of not metagaming by, I think Gulk in character, and it would be not metagaming really to have him just drive the building into the country club. But it doesn't matter. So this whole time through this whole conversation, Ziggy's finger has kind of just been hovering over the call button on Gulk's number, just in case anything goes wrong. Just call. And so we had all this conversation, and finally Livingston is like, well, this is all very interesting, you see, because the other day there was this robbery. And it's the second that he said robbery, Ziggy was immediately just like, I hit the call button. And then he's like, I pull out my dual Derringers out of my sleeves, and I fire both at Livingston. And I'm like, I pull out my Derringer and I fire straight at Jack. Just immediately. As soon as he said the word robbery. Okay, so boom, the call has been made to Gulk. So he's going to be on his way real fast. He was probably getting ready, just in case. Okay, and so we did quick draws. Both Ziggy and we had quick draw holsters. And so basically it's just a holster on your forearm or whatever. And so with just a mental command, you can just release it. So the gun just slides down into your hand and you can fire real quickly. And so I only have one. He had dual, but he's not ambidextrous, so he takes a penalty for the other one. But it's actually not a bad way to go. And so we handled mine first. So I did the quick draw, no problem. And so that Ren ruled. This is a house rule, I guess. But when you do a quick draw, the target is generally unaware of the attack because it's so quick. It's just they don't have time to react. And so, since Jack is unaware of it, he doesn't get the normal defense test. He just has to take the hits. And so, I do the quick draw, I roll, and he rolls his body and his armor and everything, and I get 1 point of damage across. But that's all I needed. Because, he was at pretty much death's door. And so, he went back unconscious. And so then Ziggy did his rolls. And he did both his quick draws. He succeeded. He fired both shots straight, called shots to Livingston's face. Both connected. The first shot did 15 freaking damage. It was insane. Just, and his body just slumps over onto the table. And so then the gunfight ensued. We were in the restaurant, so I quickly tipped over the table, and we're both just shooting. And Ren botched every single roll he made throughout that whole gunfight because The two of us are not combat characters. I really need to emphasize that. We suck. Like, we have our pistol skills, and that's it. We have, like, a little bit in pistols, and that's it. We don't have high agility or anything. Well, I think Lynx is better than I am. And so, we really all have our Derringers and stuff, and so we're just... And so, Lynx just fires a couple shots straight off to the orc guy. He goes down, goes right through this glass, door right behind him. He's dead. I'm firing at this other guy. He goes down. This other guys on the other side of the room we're firing at. And finally, Gulk bursts through with his burst fire shotgun, just like Terry Crews in the Expendables, and he's just... No problem. And we just owned all of them. It was amazing. It was amazing. Even without Mert there, our combat specialist, we dominated. Incredible. But Lynx did take a shot. He did get hit once, and so he didn't have any armor on. He just had his golf clothes on. And so it hurt. He's hurting now. He's kind of bleeding, and so we're like, we need to get out of here. But, we did clear out the place, so let's grab everybody's comlink. I don't have enough explosives, so I'm going to have to call my Mr. Cleaner. He's going to have to come in here and clean up the whole place. Remove all the evidence, because that's what they do. And so I'm like, oh shit. Oh shit. And so, Lynx goes over to Livingston's body. He wants his comlink, because that's probably the wealthiest bank account there. So he goes over, he's rummaging through, and suddenly, his arm gets grabbed. He's like, oh shit! And so Livingston's eyes pop open, and he's just like, get out of my club. And we're just like, oh! And so Lynx shoots his taser into Livingston's chest, which doesn't really do anything. And we're just like, oh! And so we call Gulk over to just give him a bunch of burst rounds into the face, and he runs over, and Livingston is just like, psh, and sends him flying across the room, and we're just like, oh! And so at this point it finally clicked that Livingston Dell is actually a dragon in disguise, because no other creature would be that powerful. And so dragons are mean, very powerful, very intelligent, very vindictive. And so we've pissed off a dragon severely. We're all pretty much dead. But he's saying, get out of his club, you have 10 seconds. And so we're going to damn well comply. So I run over, I grab Gulk, and I'm just like, let's get out of here. And Lynx runs out the other way, and he's like, oh, on the way out, I grab the orc's comlink. And I'm like, oh my god. And so he grabs the comlink, but then he runs out. We run out to the car, and I'm like, oh shit, oh yeah, we're done. And so we get in the car, Lynx is in the back, just bleeding all over the seats like Reservoir Dogs, and I'm just like, Gulk, drive, we need a street doctor, quick. But first he's got to touch his puzzle box. So he activates the puzzle box, and he gets one, this was one that Ren came up with, a new one, and it was like, all of a sudden, a hammer came flying down, smashed into the ground right in front of our car. And I'm just like, what the shit, Gulk? And he gets out of the car and goes to the hammer and tries tugging on it. And obviously Thor's hammer, yeah. So he doesn't pick it up. He kind of shifts it a little bit, but he doesn't pick it up. I'm like, Gulk, we gotta go! So he gets in the car and we're driving. He's on manual, man. He's like, just pedal to the floor. We gotta get to a street doctor. And behind us, as we're driving away, the country club just explodes in fire and ash and everything, and a giant dragon just flies out of that into the sky, and I'm the only one looking back, and I'm just like, must drive faster, must drive faster, must drive faster. And so Gulk's like, argh! And so we're speeding through the highways and shit, and we can hear the dragon just screeching and roaring ahead, above us. And everybody in the city is seeing this now. This is serious shit. And so we're on the freeway, and we can just hear it above us, and it flies ahead of us off, and we can't really see where it went. And I'm just like, we're done. We're done. What's the point? And Ziggy's messaging me, and he's like, Lynx might just, eat a bullet when he gets home or something, like, just to forget about all this. And I'm just like, oh my god. And so we get to the street doctor. I pay like $1,000 to get him repaired, and so I'm sitting there with Gulk while we're waiting for Lynx to get fixed up, and I'm just like, oh my god, Gulk, this is what is going on? Like, what is going on? And so he's like, well, this puzzle box has brought us nothing but good so far. And I'm like, I don't know about that. There's a dragon. And he's like, well, let's not write. How about the next thing that this puzzle box does? That will decide whether it's good or bad. And I'm just like, sure. I don't know anymore. And so he rolls, and he gets. No, he doesn't get that one. Shit. What is that one he gets? It's not important, I guess. So don't worry about that. Nothing really happened. Nothing visibly happened. And so I was like, well, nothing happened. And he's like, oh, well, I'll try it again. And so he tries it again, and he glitches. Which is bad. And so Ren's like, okay, well, you basically get 3 effects. One for each person. Me, Lynx, and Gulk. So we roll 3 things. The first one is like, no rain will ever fall again within a 1 mile radius of this spot. And I'm just like, okay, that's a bad omen. But maybe that'll scare the dragon off. I don't know. Because this is Seattle. And if, 1 mile doesn't get rain, people are going to notice. So maybe that's hallowed ground. I don't know. The next one was the nearest mountain levitates 1 mile into the air. And so we're like, okay, Ren's like, okay, he's British, so he doesn't really know. Are there any mountains nearby? And I'm like, well, sure, Mount Rainier. Everybody knows. Mount Rainier is right near Seattle, and I assume it's still there. And so, okay. So Mount Rainier, which is like 53 miles from Seattle, suddenly levitates 1 mile into the air, and people are going to notice this. I'm like, that's a bad omen. And so then the third one is one that Ren came up with, which is like, reader finds a unique suit of armor. And I'm like, okay, that could be interesting. He's already impervious to normal weapons, but alright. And so, I'm just like, nothing happened again, because we didn't really find anything, nothing really changed. He's like, I don't know, I guess it's broken. I'm like, oh god. And so, we get Lynx back, and he's all patched up. I pay the $1,000, and we're driving home. And I'm just like, oh my, we're done. We're done. And so I hack the Orcs comlink, and we get another $2,000 out of that. And so we split it 2 ways, $11,000 each, which is not a huge payoff, not worth we pissed off the dragon. We need like 11 million or something for that. And so, okay, great. And so I tossed the comlink and whatever. And so he goes in to go to bed because he needs the rest. We go back into our house, me and Gulk, and we find a suit of armor standing in the middle of our living room. And so Ren linked us a picture of it. And, yep, it's Iron Man. It is a Iron Man power suit. He linked like Mark number 35 from the 3rd movie. So it's not his traditional suit. I think it's a little bit bulkier. It was like the like a combat rescue suit or something like that. So if you want to look it up, it's Mark number 35. And so yeah, it was just standing there, and I'm just like, where did you get this? And he's like, the box. And I'm just like, I'm done. I'm going to bed. And so I just go to bed, and Gulk's like, okay. And he goes to bed, and that's where we ended off. And I'm just like, oh my god. Like, and the dragon thing didn't even come from the bag, the box, whatever. That's Shadowrun. And I'm like, so the worst thing, and I don't know, maybe the box will be our salvation. You never know. Maybe that'll just get rid of it, or it'll send us all someplace very nice and safe. I don't know. We're probably all dead. We have a very angry, pissed off dragon that wants us dead. So we'll see that where that goes. He might, like, what Ren might do is have us be like work for the dragon, which is terrible. You might as well be dead at that point. But I don't know. I don't know. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna go ahead with our normal plans and pretend nothing ever happened. That's basically what we're gonna do, because over here I have a whiteboard that is completely filled with another plan, another job that Ziggy and I want to do. And so I spent like an hour coming up with this whole big heist plan. And so I want to do it, damn it. Dragon be damned. And so that's what we're going to do. And hope nothing bad happens, but something bad is going to happen. So yeah, I kind of feel bad for Edward, not really for killing his character, but he didn't really get to do much that whole session. So I do feel bad for that, but I guess that kind of makes me an asshole because it was my fault. But hey, if I had just car bombed him like I wanted to do, he would have just made his new character and we would have gone through. But Ziggy had to do the whole thing on the country club, so I don't know. He'll be involved in the next session when we all die, so absolute insanity. And not even really because of the box. Just that's Shadowrun, I guess. So, yeah. Fun stuff. I hope Merc can make it. I'd like him to be there when we all get killed. So, yeah. So hopefully next session I get to tell you all about my cool plan and not about how we're eternally slaves to the dragon. I don't know. But we'll see. So, alright. My name is Mang. This has been Roll Mangging. I'll see you fine folks next week.